to say that the left doesn't care about the truth when you haven't talked about a single charge in this evidence docket, which has fucking citations that are like FBI transcripts and subpoenas, and you haven't talked about any of it. How can you say we don't care about the truth? You haven't addressed the truth. You haven't even scratched the surface of the truth. And the reason is because they like to keep it purposely vague, so they don't know what's in the indictment, because the indictment is incredibly damning. Enhances gene research. Wait, hold on. Russian pundit Benny Johnson had made a video about it. I don't respect this guy even a little bit, but let's see what he says.
The most feared woman inside the DOJ. That's true. When you come trotting into one of those courtrooms, I know it. I know they sit there and they look. They're like, oh gosh, should we kill you? Oh no.
That's why I wear my high heels. I'm 5'10" in person, so I want to make sure I'm like over 6 feet. So I tower over Jay Brett.
Oh yeah, all right, yeah, good. I mean, hey, listen, at least you're not here opining. What did we have last time? Someone talking about how glorious Jack Smith's beard is. Some CNN reporter, like how glowing he was. Yeah, okay, all right.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so let's smack Jack Smith around a little bit here. What the hell happened yesterday? This seems like extreme psychotic, overly medicated ex-girlfriend style texting, right? Like yeah, remember all the good times?
This is like the boiling bunny in the pot, right? This is Jack Smith's Boiling Bunny from Fatal Attraction, this 165-page, what I call now dirty dossier, right, Benny? So we had the Steele dossier in 2016. We had the collaboration, the Hunter Biden so-called dossier that we said was that all of the government, FBI was in cahoots with.
Okay. Already. So they're calling the evidence filing in order to comply with the Supreme Court ruling that Trump asked for. They're calling that evidence filing by Jack Smith to comply with the Supreme Court ruling that Donald Trump was asking for somehow obsession from a prosecutor. Like, okay, the obsessed line can be effective if it's just like randos on the internet. Like if there's like if I have like 70 followers and some dude keeps like fucking DMing me like a billion times a day, I could be like, wow, this dude's obsessed, you know? For someone to call a special counsel obsessed, like, yeah, that's the point. He's there to prosecute you. Like, like, dude, the DOJ is obsessed with me. They keep, like, telling me, like, oh, I committed this crime, and here's all of the evidence for this crime. Like, dude, get a life.
With big tech and the media, intelligence officials, to call that Russian disinformation. But now, Benny, they don't even have to do it behind closed doors. They are doing it out in the open. This is what this immunity motion, 165-page, like Matt Whitaker said, a lot of rehashing of the January 6th Select Committee report. But it's different when you have it in a political document, which the J6 report was. But to put the Department of Justice's imprimatur on this garbage, this partisan political hack job by Jack Smith. And here's the bottom line, Benny. Jack Smith and Tanya Chutkin know this case will never go to a jury trial. They know between the Supreme Court ruling in immunity and the Supreme Court ruling in Fisher, which you and I have talked about, 1512C2, overturning how the DOJ flagrantly misinterpreted the language in that post-Enron statute, overturn that. Benny, that represents 2 of these 4 weak counts in Jack Smith's indictment. This is going nowhere. But between Judge Chutkin...
Okay. Prediction. Is she going to address anything in it and talk about why that's not illegal? Maybe? Is she going to talk about any of the substance, or is she just going to call Jack Smith obsessed?
An Obama appointee with a long record of making anti-Trump statements in her courtroom. I've been there and I've seen it. And Jack Smith and the DOJ, they want to seed media with more inflammatory stories about January 6th, what happened before January 6th, and they are successfully doing so. This is his opening arguments for a case that will never make it to a jury trial. It is really infuriating, again, to see the most egregious example of DOJ interference, not interference in an election, putting their the entire department's weight on the scales of justice, denying Donald Trump's due process rights, his First Amendment rights, Penny. This is a First Amendment case. Donald Trump can say whatever he wants in the White House. He can say whatever he wants to Vice President Pence or to governors in Georgia or Arizona or election.
I'm pretty sure that's not true. If you are the president, because it's a conspiracy case, right? So if the conspiracy is to overturn the election and you're pressuring the vice president to go through with something to alter the results of the election, that obviously fits into the conspiracy, obviously.
Workers or his own attorneys. This is Jack Smith criminalizing political activity that we have tolerated for 200 plus years in the way that we're tolerating right now.
No, wrong. Okay. I'm going to pause this every fucking 5 seconds because this is disgusting. This is someone trying to politicize what Jack Smith is doing, but he's laying out exactly what law, like, how Donald Trump engaged in a conspiracy to overturn the election and exactly how he did it. So for someone to say, oh, this is politically protected speech that has been happening for hundreds of years. No, there's never been a case where the president tried to pressure the vice president to subvert the Electoral Count Act to make him the president again. There's no historical precedence for this. So for her to again, notice that she hasn't brought up anything of substance that's in the evidence docket yet. For her to just call this political is not only wrong, but like actually wildly dishonest. But I mean, we have Benny Johnson, who is taking millions of dollars from the Kremlin to spread misinformation about Ukraine. So I mean, who knows who else is funding him? So I mean, you know,
to criminalize only in Donald Trump's case political activity that we know happens every day in a White House in the United States.
Wrong.
You saw this in the vice president's debate, and I have to bring this up simply because the timing is just
okay.
so unique.
Notice that she's very keen to give case law in order to say why this case won't go to trial. Where's the historical precedence for what Donald Trump engaged in? Why haven't you even said what Donald Trump engaged in? Why haven't you given an example of something comparable to what Donald Trump has engaged in here?
Unique and convenient for this brand new, not actually so new filing. Same filing we've seen before, but Tim Walz gets his ass kicked, and everybody's talking about how shocking it was that Tim Walz says no, hate speech should be banned. Like that's actually possibly the most radical position that's been taken by any presidential ticket ever. In fact, there are parts of speech that must be banned under the First Amendment.
Also,
sort of dovetailing
I'm pretty
into
sure wasn't he talking about like election misinformation? And also, to say that Tim Walz got his ass kicked, why did J.D. Vance not say that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election? That should have been a slam dunk. That immediately fucked over every single thing. But for anyone to claim that Tim Walz lost, it just feels hyper-partisan because, like, did he perform as well as I think he should have? No. But, like, it was an agree fest. Like, they agreed with a lot of the shit that they had to say to each other. It's just that J.D. Vance had to go on the election denialism train. But, like, other than that, it was a very non-contentious VP debate. So to act like Tim Walz got his ass kicked is like, what are you even talking about?
And they drop it. They drop it right after the debate, just like we've seen before with these DOJ indictments. How malign is this operation? Do you think they are actually following news cycles in order to like hit Trump?
Also, I'm pretty sure that the deadline for this document to be filed was set by the judge prior to the VP debate. So if the VP debate had gone super well for Walz, this document would have been released nonetheless. Like this, to act like this, like these documents can just get released on a whim is completely ignorant as to how these documents even get filed.
Particularly high notes in order to like rip away potential wins from the president.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the timing. And you brought this up before I came on.
Let's talk about what's in the fucking evidence motion. Why are we talking about the timing? Let's talk about the content of this document.
So this unusual, and when Judge Chutkan allowed this brief to be filed, she said, I was there in the courtroom, I talked to you right after.
It is unusual. You're so right. These documents are unusual. It's unusual because we didn't have an understanding that that presidents are above the law. We didn't have an understanding that presidential acts as a term didn't exist prior to this case. So, yeah, this briefing is very unusual because it's meant to comply with a brand new Supreme Court ruling addressing something that isn't addressed in the Constitution or anywhere else in American law. So, yeah, obviously, this is a unique thing because Donald Trump asked the Supreme Court to make this case unique by arguing that presidential acts are immune from prosecution.
Afterwards, I was in the courtroom September 5th. Jack Smith was there, the media swooning over him. People from Washington, D.C. who hate Trump, they were packed in this courtroom. And she called this brief irregular and outside of the ordinary course of what happened of the court process. She doesn't care. She immediately that evening allowed Jack Smith to file this, what he called opening brief. Then this turns into a motion for immunity determinations. That's what he called it. Then he asked Judge Chutkan to exceed the normal page limit, which is about 40 pages in a motion, to quadruple that to 180 pages. She, of course, allows it. So that was placed under seal on September 26th. Judge Chutkan gave Donald.
This is disgusting and wildly dishonest. What? Why is this unique? You haven't talked about why these exceptions are being given to Jack Smith. You're just preying on the fact that people don't understand how the justice system works. Go into detail. Why? Why was this document page limit able to be extended? Why are they letting him file a super long evidence docket? Why are they letting him file an evidence docket at all when this isn't something that's been founded by the court? Like, there's a reason that she's not answering these questions, and it's because she's a hyper-partisan fucking hack who is trying everything that she can to make this look like political persecution, when Donald Trump set the conditions in to make this case like a specific one-off thing. Like, yeah, whatever. Okay. Also, I know the connection's really bad, but it's recording, so it'll be uploaded.
Donald Trump's lawyers a few days to go through this 165-page document and their alleged redactions, which weren't very helpful at all. Gave them until October 1st, so that was Tuesday evening, the night of the debate, to file their objections. She unsealed it yesterday. So do you think Judge Tutkin actually was looking at any of the concerns, the Donald Trump's lawyers? She didn't care. She is nothing more than a rubber stamp and has been from the very beginning. And Betty, this is why she got in trouble at the Supreme Court. Not only did they vacate—
Also, there's a reason why she didn't say what the objection to the filing of this evidence motion is. And it's because the objection to the filing of this evidence motion was fucking patently absurd. It was that it was election interference. What the that's fucking ridiculous and stupid. And to act like a judge has to pay that idea any due diligence is insane. It's stupid. Even though the judge had already previously said, hey, this court has no influence on the election. I don't care if the election is today or in 5 years, this case is happening. So for them to keep appealing like, oh, this is election interference, that's not— if it didn't get upheld the first time, why the fuck did you think that arguing it the next 6 times would be upheld? And why does this fucking— I'd need to look at her credentials. I don't know if she's just stupid or wildly dishonest, but why the fuck does this person think that the judge has to give hyper-partisan credence to the Trump administration when they're making dog shit legal arguments?
Her original immunity order denying all forms of immunity to Donald Trump in a December 2023 ruling, all forms of it, just categorically, blanketly denying—
Good! Why should Trump have that immunity?
Presidential immunity in this unprecedented case. Chief Justice John Roberts criticized her numerous times for her hasty, expedited handling of an unprecedented question of criminal immunity from criminal prosecution. She learned nothing. She strode into that courtroom on September 5th like she had just been upheld 9-0. And she was, taking it to John Lauro, Trump's attorney, and here she granted this. So unsealing it yesterday, no consideration for how this was going to be perceived and reported in the media, which of course—
Good! Why would you want a judge to be hyper-partisan about a presidential campaign? A lady justice is blind. Why should it not? Like, you're saying like, oh, the judge didn't even think about letting him off the hook because he's immune. Yeah, good.
False stories about what it involved.
Of course.
So,
it's nothing but hoaxes in my timeline. Nothing but hoaxes in my timeline. You've been meeting some of these
Also,
people.
we're 10 minutes into a 20-minute video, not a single peep on what is in this evidence motion. Just a bunch of fucking coping about, well, shouldn't the president be, like, immune from breaking laws? And, like, is it, like, holding him to account for his actions, like, kind of election interference? Like, fuck out of here.
And thank you for that work, because you actually read the documents. But it's just pure hoax. They're just giving— they're just throwing red meat to the people who have had their brains psychotically broken.
Also, oh my god, I keep pausing every fucking 5 seconds to act like this has no meat and that all of these charges are just made up. How the fuck did they get the grand jury to indict him twice on it? If all of these charges that Jack Smith are presenting are made up, how did he present enough evidence to 2 separate grand juries to give him probable cause to indict?
Through Trump derangement syndrome.
that's right. I mean, I was watching CNN yesterday because I like to see what—
This is Trump
people on the
derangement
other side are
syndrome.
doing.
Trump derangement syndrome is giving him so wildly the benefit of the doubt to say, like, well, he should have— the judge is being like really mean to him because, like, he's like the president. Like, he can't break crimes. Like, ugh. The Russian money cannot be worth this. The Russian money cannot be worth your, like, soul for just lying.
And I mean, Jake Tapper is holding this up like it was his Christmas present. They're celebrating on the news set like it's New Year's Eve. They couldn't hide their glee that this again brazen example of DOJ interference, not just tipping the scales, rigging the election again against Donald Trump. They gave it no consideration
Rigging the
whatsoever.
election for a whole— this is okay. Fuck you. It is rigging the election to talk about the things that Donald Trump objectively did to rig the last election. Fuck you. Like, absolutely not. That's insane. This is insanity. Because believe it or not, it wasn't election interference whenever the special counsel released his thing about Joe Biden's classified documents. It wasn't, or the FBI released the thing about Joe Biden's classified documents, calling him a senile old man. That wasn't election interference. Or the special counsel report on Hillary Clinton's emails, that wasn't election interference. But the evidence motion, which was required by the Supreme Court ruling that Donald Trump asked for, being released, is somehow election interference now? Even though the other Joe Biden never got prosecuted for the classified documents thing. Hillary Clinton never got prosecuted for the emails thing. Donald Trump is being prosecuted for this, but somehow this is the only one that has no meat and is election interference? Like, get the fuck out of here.
It's going to be coming, which is the appendix to this 165-page dossier that will lay out exactly where this information came from. Grand jury testimony, FBI 302s. And then here's the really hypocritical part of all of this. I have watched Jack Smith in Florida, the documents case, which was now dismissed by Aileen Cannon in July, concluding that Jack Smith has been unconstitutionally appointed. I've watched his team in Florida, and I've watched his team in Washington, and I've watched Judge Chutkan beg to keep everything under wraps, right? To keep everything under protective order, under seal, under major redactions for fear of witness intimidation. She has Donald Trump under a gag order to this day, Benny, saying he cannot make public critical statements about potential witnesses in this case because it could lead to witness intimidation. She has also said, and Jack Smith has said this, we need to preserve the integrity of the proceedings. So all of this discovery, classified and unclassified, should be kept under wraps. All of a sudden, none of that applies, right? Doesn't matter what witnesses.
You fucking idiot. The reason that gag order was put in place is because Donald Trump was already airing out the names of the witnesses and they were being harassed. That already happened. But them to air out, first, also, none of the witnesses are named in the Jack Smith indictment also. But even if, like, we know the unindicted co-conspirators, why the fuck would you go on a pressure campaign against Rudy Giuliani or against fucking John Eastman when they're already on Trump's side? Like, why would Trump try to sick his fans on people that are co-conspirators?
Are revealed by this document. Doesn't matter if their grand jury testimony is unsealed. Doesn't matter if all of a sudden FBI 302s. This is the same sort of thing that led
you have to look at why these documents are being unsealed. Donald Trump's gag order was put in place because he was harassing witnesses. That's it. Like, there's nothing comparable in the January 6th case, though.
Calls for Aileen Cannon's recusal in Florida when she allowed some of this material to be unredacted. Recall that, Benny. Now all of a sudden, the media's like, this is great. Who cares if these people get intimidated or threatened?
Also, no, they are not calling for they were not calling for Cannon's recusal because she was releasing, like, unclassifying things. They were calling for her recusal because she was clearly a hyper-partisan hack who was hyper-partisan towards Donald Trump, ruling on his case, dismissing it because special counsel is somehow unconstitutional, and then almost got a shot at the fucking attorney general spot. So my ass that call for recusal was stupid. She was literally almost got quid pro quo'd.
Doesn't care. Jack Smith doesn't care. All of the rules thrown out the window on 1A case, and in the process denying Donald Trump again his due process rights, his right to confront the people who are making these allegations against him, to confront his accuser. Sorry, I lost the word there. So this is a complete denial of his rights, as both of these cases have been. And
which is, by the way, what he argued for at the Supreme Court. He argued for the immunity, and the Supreme Court said that there has to be some grounds pre-trial by which we determine what is a presidential act, like what is presumptively immune and what is fully immune and what isn't immune. This is what Donald Trump asked for. So I don't know what to tell you. Like, go cry about it. Like, this is what you asked for. This is what the Supreme Court gave to Trump when they told him that he's immune.
And now they're just going to keep feeding the media beast every single hour with this document as people are starting to vote in some states.
Oh man,
we're halfway through the video, still hasn't talked about a single fucking thing in the evidence docket in a 24-minute video all about the evidence filing.
You know, we've seen anybody who's been around long enough has experienced it time and time again. It just doesn't matter what the truth is, as long as they can get a smear, a slander on.
You're not talking about the truth. Oh my God, you're not talking about the truth. You haven't addressed any of the substance in this document. For you to say, well, they don't care about the truth, when I've had to pause I think I've been talking about this video for 45 minutes. I've had to pause every fucking 5 seconds to correct the bullshit that the fucking one lawyer that you could find to defend Donald Trump was spewing on your pro-Russian ass show. to say that the left doesn't care about the truth when you haven't talked about a single charge in this evidence docket, which has fucking citations that are like FBI transcripts and subpoenas, and you haven't talked about any of it. How can you say we don't care about the truth? You haven't addressed the truth. You haven't even scratched the surface of the truth. And the reason is because they like to keep it purposely vague, so they don't know what's in the indictment, because the indictment is incredibly damning. They don't want to address what's in it because it's wholly and totally undefensible.
On you, the wrap-up smear, as it's been elucidated by Nancy Pelosi, as Nancy Pelosi, in a fit of pique or drunkenness, just explained their entire media strategy a couple years ago. It was really funny. I don't know if you've ever seen the clip, the wrap-up smear, Nancy Pelosi, but describing this exact process, right? And none of it needs to be true. You just need to smear your enemy with something that you're actually doing, and then you merchandise it to the media, and the media like runs with it, screams with it, and all anyone ever cares about is the headline. And it seems like that's exactly what they're doing to Trump. And these actions here that you just talked through, since you've actually been in the courthouse, man, this seems like judicial jihad. This is like a suicide mission. Like, it feels to me, and tell me if I'm wrong here, man. I happen to be
also Benny Johnson. You're a fucking piece of shit too. Why aren't you asking any questions about this? She's making incredibly vague statements that posture to nothing. Why haven't you asked her a single clarifying question?
Feels to me that they're like, quick, he's gonna win. He's gonna destroy us all. Throw everything you can at him, right? Like, do it all, right? Pack the cars with as much as you could possibly fit in the trunk, all right? And let's just drive straight towards the base.
Trump asked for
I totally agree. I mean,
the immunity ruling, by the way.
If he was losing, they wouldn't be doing any of this because they wouldn't jeopardize, and they know that they're lost there.
Weren't these criminal probes started prior to him announcing running for president? Wasn't he indicted before there was any reliable polling? Do you think that you can just, like, these processes don't just start at the behest of polling? Like, that's the most stupid fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, he was indicted before there was almost any polling. He was indicted while he was still running against Joe Biden.
They are totally desperate. And that's why and to your point about projection, you have Tim Walz on the debate stage the other night talking about how Donald Trump wins. He's going to use his DOJ to exact revenge against his political opponents. I mean, hello. And this is the news media doing the same reporters who are covering Jack Smith and the DOJ are
There's no evidence of that.
Complaining that Donald Trump is going to use his DOJ to do the same thing. If only. Fingers crossed.
Where is the evidence of any collusion between Joe Biden and Jack Smith? Any at all? Any evidence?
Because, Benny, as I wrote today on Twitter, what Jack Smith and Judge Chutkan and this DOJ, and this is Merrick Garland, Lisa Monaco, this is everyone at Main Justice, they have done this as well. This cannot be forgiven and it cannot be forgotten. Unlike 2016, unlike 2020, no one faced consequences for using the overwhelming tools of the federal government to aim their fire and destroy Donald Trump. This act.
Why? Is it because there was nothing criminal? Maybe?
Yesterday absolutely must face repercussions. And Jack Smith, the unconstitutional special counsel, who brags in court that he has unlimited resources, unlimited. He has spent, Benny, think about this. In the first 14 months of his prosecution between the special counsel and DOJ. She is a piece of shit.
This is disgusting. Her saying that a special counsel filing government-backed documents full of subpoenas, full of FBI testimony, deserves repercussions from Donald Trump. You are a fascist. That is disgusting.
$35 million in 14 months. That doesn't include what he has spent since March of this year until now. It also does not include what the Department of Justice has spent since they initiated this investigation in 2021, before Jack Smith was appointed.
In 2021? Wait, they started this investigation in 2021? When did Donald Trump announce he was going to run for re-election? Do you see how any single question makes this all look like the stupid fucking lying bullshit that it actually is? Asking a single critical question unravels the entire conspiracy that they're asserting, because the conspiracy that they're asserting is that Joe Biden is coordinating with Jack Smith to take down his political opponent with no evidence. Not a single one. And 14 minutes into the 24-minute video, maybe this 10 minutes is super dense, full of content that's in the evidence filing. Not a single piece of the evidence that's in the evidentiary filing has been even hinted at.
We need accountability, not just for Donald Trump, not just for his associates, Peter Lake, Stephen Bannon, and Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon, who served jail time, and for the 1,500 plus J6ers who have endured the wrath of this DOJ. This must be dealt with when Donald Trump wins the White House.
Yeah, we really, really look forward to that. I mean, how are you going to even have a functional country if you don't? If
How are you
there's no
even going to have a functional country if you don't pardon all of the insurrectionists?
consequences here, and if these people are allowed to do this, and as we built sort of into the block leading into this segment, Julie, like Jack Smith is a human dirty bomb, like a judicial dirty bomb. It's been used against Bob McDonnell in this capacity, overturned at the Supreme Court. Everything, this guy's entire career. Yes,
This guy's entire career has been like prosecuting crimes. Like he's like a judicial dirty bomb. Like it's like wherever he's appointed, he like investigates them and like prosecutes them. Like get this guy the fuck out of here.
Being a hatchet man in order to destroy political careers and get humiliated by real legitimate courts, but to do so through wrap-up smears, through the media. It's pretty embarrassing. You mentioned the people who are going to be unsealed in all this, who may have been testifying against Donald Trump. One of them was on national TV last night, and wow, I mean, really, it's pretty shocking here. Is Cassidy Hutchison. I just want to get you to respond to this very short clip of she's a very impressive person. She's endorsing Kamala Harris on TV here. Her only job is to just go and repeat the line, right, that her publicists have given her. And here's how it went.
A few issues that Kamala Harris and I would see eye to eye on. I hope that we'd be able to come to consensus on a lot more issues.
They're not setting their best.
What? Oh my fucking god. This feels like the same moment that I had in that one debate where she was like, well, I know that Donald Trump tried to overturn the election, but did you know that Kamala Harris drinks wine on TV? Like, yeah, I know. Like, how do you feel about one of the people that testified against Donald Trump stuttered on live TV? You're a disgusting piece of shit. That's how I feel about it.
That's Julie.
Well, Cassidy Hutchinson, as we know, because of the work of Representative Barry Loudermilk over at House Administration Committee, we know now, lied under oath repeatedly at the behest of Liz Cheney. Remember, she's the one who made that dramatic testimony about how Donald Trump lunged at his Secret Service detail and the driver after they left the ellipse after a speech on January 6th went back. Turns out that was completely
prosecute her,
made up out of whole cloth. But yet she took an oath before the J6 committee. She told the entire world that story, that made up story. And then she's reversed herself several times on her testimony. Again, no consequences yet. So here she is, instead of facing perjury charges, many perjury charges, she is now, again, the queen of cable.
Also, they don't address, what did she testify? Wait, hold on.
Endorsing Kamala Harris on TV here. This, and as we built sort of into the block leading into this segment, Julie, like Jack Smith is a human dirty bomb, like a judicial dirty bomb. It's been used against Bob McDonnell in this capacity, overturned at the Supreme Court. Everything, this guy's entire career. Yes, his entire career is illegitimacy and being a hatchet man in order to destroy political careers and get humiliated by real legitimate courts, but to do so through wrap-up smears, through the media. It's pretty embarrassing. You mentioned the people who are going to be unsealed in all this, who may have been testifying against Donald Trump. One of them was on national TV last night, and wow, I mean, really, it's.
How do you know that she testified for Jack Smith if we don't know who was unsealed in the indictment? If all of the people that testified against Donald Trump were classified or withheld by the judge, how do we know that this person testified against Donald Trump? And then further, how do we know what information we got from her? And in addition to that, how do we know that whatever she gave wasn't corroborated by anybody else?
It's pretty shocking here.
Several times on made up.
Oh, but I forgot she like stuttered. So I throw this case out. I request an immediate dismissal on the grounds that one of the witnesses that was interviewed for this evidence docket stuttered on live TV while endorsing Kamala Harris. So throw this whole case out, I guess.
Whole cloth. But yet she took an oath before the J6 committee. She told the entire world that story, that made up story. And then she's reversed herself several times on her testimony. Again, no consequences yet. So here she is, instead of facing perjury charges, many perjury charges, she is now, again, the queen of cable news media. So this is the frustration. I know, Ben, you feel it. Your viewers feel it. Our side feels it. It's just the same people getting away over and over with not just targeting Donald Trump, his associates, his voters, but all of us, and really endangering and
But also Donald Trump should be immune from criminal prosecution.
Accelerating this lawfare and this descent into banana republic style territory. This is what happens in authoritarian countries.
You are defending the person who tried to overturn the election, and you haven't addressed a single point in the evidence, laying all of that out, not even hinted towards one of the points that Jack Smith makes. So I don't want to hear the fucking banana republic authoritarian bullshit while you're defending an insurrectionist.
Imprison your political opponents, whether they're the toughest, strongest like Donald Trump or the weakest like J6ers. I was getting texts again this morning.
This is
a man
disgusting.
with 2 special needs children who was sentenced to 40 months in prison. This just happened yesterday. They are not stopping. And using
I wonder what he did.
Protected speech.
Okay. Are people with special needs children immune from criminal prosecution? Like, what did he do? Tell me what he did. Don't tell me that he has special needs children. Don't, like, if I say, well, did you know that someone with special needs children that, like, owned an orphanage got indicted yesterday for murdering them? But he got indicted even though he owned an orphanage? Like, this is blatantly dishonest, and people take her seriously. Like, I guarantee you. Let's go in the comments. Trump is not a threat to democracy. He's a threat to the corrupt bureaucracy, wasting tax dollars on our bullshit. This judge should be disbarred and punished. She's a traitor. We need accountability for what has been done to the J6ers. Julie Kelly is a national treasure. Like, all of these people don't give a fuck. It's disgusting. And I'm so triggered that I have to stop watching this video because holy... This is the level of commentary that we'll get from conservatives about January 6th. It's disgusting. It's lying. It's not addressing any of the meat. Like, okay, let's see if she talks about what's in it.
Requests, who made them and who denied them. And General Milley is just one of them, who is in cahoots with Ryan McCarthy, the acting secretary of the Army, who changed the authorization chain of command the day before January 6th. But this is going to be, I believe, the most exhaustive timeline yet available. Who denied?
Oh, okay. Wait, hold on. It does look like she talks about it. Okay. Let's talk about it.
I want to touch very quickly here on something that broke last week that we haven't gotten an opportunity to talk about, which is General Milley coming now forward in released testimony saying, yeah, I just defied the president. The president asked for National Guard, and I just said no to the commander-in-chief. I'm the general and joint chief of staff, and we decided that we're just not going to do what he asked us to do. In fact, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to make sure that the Capitol building is as least secure as we could possibly make it. I lived through the National Guard being deployed throughout Washington, D.C. I know what it looks like when a building is protected by the National Guard. Nobody gets through. You're going to take your life in your hand. There's nothing more intimidating than the American military standing in formation in front of a building they don't want you to get into, right? And so if President Trump was followed through, if Mark Milley had done what the commander-in-chief ordered him to do and secured the
Committee on House Administration Subcommittee on Oversight Barry Loudermilk revealed that days before January 6, 2021, Donald Trump met with senior Pentagon leaders, urging them to do their jobs and protect lives and property. The transcripts released show Trump gave senior Pentagon leadership directives to keep January 6 peaceful, including using the National Guard, which the Pentagon ignored. The revelation directly contradicts the conclusions drawn in the flawed IG report on January 6th. The Pentagon leadership authorized concerns of optics over their duty to protect lives. President Trump met with senior Pentagon leaders and directed them to make sure any events on January 6th were safe. It is very concerning that these senior Pentagon officials ignored Donald Trump's guidance and misled congressional leaders to believe they were doing their job when they were not. Okay. So I read this. I'm pretty sure that in order for Donald Trump to order the National Guard, he has to do it through an official process, which he never did, right? In order to order the National Guard, he has to fill out some form, right? Like there has to be an official request, which he never made. I'm still pretty sure that that's true. In addition to that, this doesn't mean anything, nor does it meaningfully address what's even in the Jack Smith indictment. Jack Smith indictment lays out the submitting of fraudulent electorate slates and pressuring Mike Pence to choose those electorate slates over the state certified ones, a pressure campaign in regard to the state legislatures trying to pressure them to fraudulently overturn their votes, and inaction on January 6th. This kind of addresses the inaction on January 6th, even though it doesn't, because this was taken prior to January 6th. On January 6th, he still did everything that Jack Smith laid out. He just called for, even if he did call for National Guard, he still was engaging in wildly irresponsible action at the Capitol in front of a wildly, super wild, rowdy crowd. While the people were in the building, he was insulting Mike Pence on Twitter instead of telling them to go home. This isn't exonerating, nor does it address this doesn't meaningfully address the conspiracy to overturn the 2020 election.
the Capitol building, the chances of January 6th popping off is exactly zero.
Exactly.
Zero. You just have a protest. Some people hold signs. Some people say, we want free and fair elections, and that's it. That literally it. Everyone goes home. Guy plays the banjo. And that's the end. And there is no J6. Mark Milley here saying, no, I mean, where's the military tribunals for this dude?
Oh, he should face military tribunals for so many reasons, as you know, Benny. But I do want to get your.
President says, hey, look, there's going to be a large amount of protesters here on the 6th. Make sure that you have sufficient National Guard or soldiers to make sure it's a safe event. Hey, I don't care if you use guard or soldiers, active duty soldiers, do whatever you have to, just make sure it's safe. Okay, so this is a completely him saying, I don't care if you use guards or soldiers, just make sure that's safe. That's not an official order for the National Guard, and they did think it was safe, believe it or not, because they didn't think that Donald Trump was going to incite a rowdy crowd to the Capitol. This is the annoying thing. People at the time thought that their security was sufficient for January 6th. Why would you waste the National Guard coming to an official counting process that hasn't been fucked with, or that doesn't have any clear signs of being fucked with? Like, there was some oversight, sure, but that's a completely different thing to saying that Mark Milley should face military tribunals when Donald Trump just said he doesn't. In this thing, he says, I don't care if you use guard. They thought the people responsible for guarding the Capitol thought it was safe on January 6th. There's no evidence of them like conspiring to make it unsafe to make Donald Trump supporters look bad. Like, this was a suggestion, like I thought it was. There was no official order. That's it. That's it. Like, this doesn't undermine anything.
Viewers a little heads up on something, preview into a piece that we've been working on for weeks, and that is a blow-by-blow account of the National Guard requests, who made them and who denied them. And General Milley is just one of them, who is in cahoots with Ryan McCarthy, the acting secretary of the Army, who changed the authorization chain of command the day before January 6th. But this is going to be, I believe, the most exhaustive timeline yet available. Who denied National Guard requests from Milley to not Ryan? They slow walked it, right? They slow walked it. But you also had the Sergeant at Arms for Nancy Pelosi.
This isn't a request, by the way. This is him floating the idea of using the National Guard. This isn't an official request from Donald Trump to use the National Guard. Just to be clear.
Denying it. You had Mitch McConnell, Sergeant at Arms, denying.
Literally, there's text on the screen right now saying, I don't care if you use guard. That's a direct quote from what is on your screen right now.
You had people who, after January 6th, misrepresented who was talking to whom to finally get authorization after 5 o'clock that day. You had National Guard from other states who had arrived at Capitol grounds before the DC National Guard. This timeline will fully explain who was asking, who was denying it, why they did. And again, to your point, and this is important to emphasize.
I wonder if she says elector once in this video.
The Capitol intentionally unprotected and vulnerable on January 6th, despite all that we're told now. All of the
And there's no evidence of leaving it intentionally unprotected. There was no evidence that a fucking giant mob of Trump supporters would invade to disrupt the joint session. That's not. You haven't proven an intentional conspiracy. You have just proven that there was oversight in the scope of how big Donald Trump's attack on the Capitol would be. This argument at its core is just saying that they weren't prepared enough for Donald Trump's insurrection, so that's their fault. Like, no, stop.
Intelligence, all of the meetings behind the scenes, the conference calls between top Trump cabinet officials, DOD, Mark Milley, DOJ, DHS, they were all talking before January 6th. But yet no one authorized the deployment of even 1,000 National Guardsmen when they had the ability to do so. That, of course, is one of the biggest unanswered questions on January 6th. And because
they weren't expecting an insurrection. Also, to say that's one of the biggest problems with January 6th, when you haven't addressed the electoral scheme, the whole crux of the indictment.
That on my Substack later tonight or tomorrow. I will send it to you when it's up.
Ladies and gentlemen, this image is what it looks like when BLM and Antifa, terrorist groups of the left, wholly and totally funded and fomented by Democrat leadership, when they were marauding through Washington, D.C., burning the city, quite frankly, to timber and spray painting memorials and desecrating our monuments. And that was then politically.
Benny, this goes against your point. This is what it looks like when they understand that there's a threat. Are you saying that they intentionally left the Capitol unguarded in order to make Donald Trump supporters look bad? And if that is the case, what's the evidence? What's the evidence that they knew there was a threat, but they just wanted to leave it open just cause?
Damaging the Democrat chances in 2020. This is what Democrats agreed to. This is how Democrats protected monuments when it could have politically blown back on them. when their riots were getting out of control. And so this is what they denied.
Also,
President Trump for
the
what-
Democrat
Go on.
riots were not done to overturn the results of the 2020 election.
On the blank. It's the easiest Mad Lib ever. There would have been no January 6th if the Capitol looked like that. Obviously, right? Yeah, exactly. Julie Kelly at Declassified Live, the best. We cannot wait for you to publish.
And also, the riot at the Capitol on January 6th isn't the craziest thing about it. It doesn't matter how many National Guardsmen you have there. If Mike Pence goes through and unilaterally determines that Donald Trump's electors are the valid electors, it doesn't matter how many National Guardsmen you have there. Donald Trump successfully overturned the election.
Publish that. Please come back on the program when that sucker's up. Bring your doggies with you. We always talk about your sweet doggies.
I know. I'm outside right now, so they're not disruptive.
What a disgusting piece of shit. Look at that bio. J6 conspiracy theorist, insurrection denier, and Benny Johnson, this fucking hack fuck who's taking Russian money, is letting her on and letting her talk about the Jack Smith indictment instead of anyone with any fucking clear credentials to talk about it. Like, fuck these guys. And this is conservative reporting on January 6th. This is it. This is this is the most intelligent covering of anything in the Jack Smith indictment I've ever seen, and it was all horseshit that didn't actually notice. They didn't address one single point. They didn't even hint at one single point from the evidence. But whatever. I gotta go to bed. This is I'm going insane. All right. Good night. Mwah.